Okay, we left off on Nun Testament Days. Are we coming? No. You don't know? Okay. The Gemara had said that the Machlokes Rav and Shmuel, right, regarding the case in the Mishnah, a person goes and marries a woman, mi'achshav v'lachu shloshim yom, and then a second person comes and marries her before the 30-day period. So the Mishnah says she's mukudeshes. She's mukudeshes to the first one, right? Although the second one had married her before the 30-day period came, so Rab says mukudeshes ain't mukudeshes. Right? It's questionable whether she's mukudeshes. She may be married to the first, but she may be married to the second. Shmuel says that she's definitely married to the first, not to the second. Okay? That's Shmuel. Shmuel said mukudeshes ain't mukudeshes. Elat shloshim yom. When is it a question of whether the second kiddushin is a kiddushin or not? That's only up to 30 days. But once 30 days come, lach lamed paki kiddushi sheni legamri. Why? Because when 30 days come, now it's retroactive. He says, I'm marrying you now, but the 30-day period has to come. When the 30th day comes, retroactively, you're married to me from now. That's what he says. So therefore, so the person who came in the interim and married her before the 30-day period, it's questionable until 30 days whether the second marriage is a marriage. But if actually the 30-day period came, the second marriage is totally revoked, it's considered nothing. Ruvain says, gives her a ring, I'm marrying you now in 30 days. It should take effect now, but we have to, the 30-day period has to come. Okay? That's what he says. So Rav says it's questionable what he meant. Did he mean, I want it to be now, however, there's a condition, but it's only if day 30 comes, and now it's retroactive. So if that's the case, Mr. Two comes now and marries her before 30 days. If 30 days comes now, his marriage is nothing, because retroactively, from day one, she was a married woman. He married a married woman. Correct? So she's not married to the second person. She's not married. And that's what Shmuel says. Shmuel says, when day 30 comes, right, so retroactively, the marriage is a marriage from day one, so marriage 2 is not a marriage. He married a married woman. So complicated. Nice, you with me?
Yeah. If the marriage is consummated,
That has nothing to do with consummation.
it's just the first part.
A woman's mukudeshes. Is she an Eshes Ish? I marry Harek mukudeshesly now. Mr. Two comes says Harek mukudeshesly. The second mukudeshes does it mean anything? No, she's a married woman. So the same thing over here. When day 30 comes retroactively, the marriage was a marriage to Mr. A. So Mr. B comes, he's marrying a married woman. So it's not a marriage. It's nothing. That's Shmuel. But what about up to the 30-day period? Because Rashi points out that, let's say he should die before day 30 comes. Mr. A doesn't live to day 30, which is not simple. Which is not simple. No. Why? Maybe at day 30, retroactively, the marriage is a marriage. Right? Whether he's alive or not alive. What difference does it make? Right? That shouldn't make a difference. Because it has nothing with him being there. Let's say the man would say, it's a time issue. It has nothing to do with it. I'll give you an example. I sell you a piece of property on the condition that you pay the money in 6 months. If you pay the money in 6 months, the transaction is your transaction. If not, it's not a transaction. The man who originally transacted it with this condition, he dies before the 6 months happen. Is the transaction a transaction if the man pays the money within 6 months? But the man's not here. The one who transferred is not here. The answer is the transfer happens immediately on the condition that he pays the money within 6 months. So whether he's alive 6 months later or not, it's totally irrelevant. But the marriage is from now. it's not the marriage takes place in 30 days. So it comes at a halachic difference. Is she a Yavama or not a Yavama? Right? If she was never married, so then what? Says she's not a Yavama. Right? But if it's retroactive, she is a Yavama. So according to Shmuel, but Rashi says over here, if he should die. We'll see the Ran. It's not simple. Rashi said, what about if he should change his mind? He marries her now in 30 days. The Ran argues with Rashi regarding dying. Even if he should die, it's retroactive. It's retroactive. But if he should want to change his mind, he could change his mind. Because again, why did he say it? If you want to marry the woman now, say, I'm marrying you now. Harem Kadeshishly, end it. What are you attaching the 30-day period? Regarding transacting land payment, okay, person doesn't have the money now. You pay him with 6 months, the land is yours now. If not, it's not yours. But when you marry a woman, either you're marrying or not marrying. Well, why do you have to wait for 30 days? Because the person wants to give himself a leeway period that if you should want to back out before 30 days comes, he'll be able to back out. So he wants to lock her in, that if somebody else wants to marry her in the interim, he can't marry her. Because if he doesn't change his mind when 30 days comes, it's retroactive from day one. But yet, he's leaving the opening for himself that if he should want to back out from the marriage, he's able to back out. That's why he said 30 days. Has nothing to do with that. No, it's not relevant. It's not comparable. There he said, I marry you, that the marriage take place in 30 days. Here he said, Me'achshav. I want to take place now on the condition that day 30 comes. Because that wasn't a conditional marriage. This is a conditional marriage. This is a conditional marriage. First of all, we rule like Rabbi Yochanan. We don't rule like Rish Lakish. Rish Lakish is refuted. We hold that Dibur Vatal Dibur. The marriage is annulled. It's nothing. But I'm saying, what's the rationale? Why does the man leave himself the 30-day period? Because he wants to secure the woman that she if he wants to marry her, she's married him. But if he wants to back out, he has a right to back out. That's why he said 30 days. But let's say he should die. He should die, he says it's not so simple. Rashi says that was included within the intent because he asked, seemingly it's the Varm Shibalev. Is it so obvious a person believes he's going to die? Changing his mind, that is the reason, say, why he left the 30-day opening. That if he should want to back out within 30 days, he should be able to back out. But the person doesn't think about dying. If he says, if I die, it's one thing. He didn't speak about dying. So that's the only issue that Ran takes with Rashi. Is it Dvarim Shibalev? Is not Dvarim Shibalev? Okay? She can't back out. She can't back out. He can't. She can't. Okay? She needs nothing. Okay? So according to Shmuel, Shmuel says, until 30 days, it's questionable whether the second marriage is a marriage. Once day 30 comes, the second marriage is definitely nothing. But what does Rab say? Rab says, Mukadeshes vein Mukadeshes. What's the discussion? So Rashi explains, because it may have been a retraction. When he said Me'achshav, did he mean conditional? Or did he mean, when he said Me'achshav, originally says now, but when he said after 30, he meant it was a change of mind. He meant it should take effect after 30 days. It's like Mekadosh a woman for after 30 days. So what happens if somebody comes in the interim and marries her before 30 days? She's married to the second person, not to the first person. Right? That we had the Gemara before. Correct? No, not I'm marrying you 30 days. If 30 days should come and I don't change my mind, then you're married from this moment. And if I should change my mind, then you're not married from this moment. If I change my mind, you're not married. And if I don't change my mind, then you are married. That's the conditional. No, that's Shmuel. Rab says we interpret the words differently. And that may be the case, but maybe when he said Lacha Shloshim, it was a retraction. Did he mean like we're saying now, or did he mean it was a retraction? I don't mean now. I mean it should take effect in 30 days. So if it means that it should take effect in 30 days, if another person marries her before 30 days, she's married to number 2, not to number 1. So now, if it's irresolved, we don't know exactly what he meant, and this should happen she needs to get from both of them, right? Because she's not permitted to be with it's a suffix. She's not permitted to be with either of them. Who's her husband? Mr. 1 or Mr. 2? Okay, let's see inside. According to Rav, she would need a chalitza, misofik. She would need chalitza, misofik. Right? Because she may be his, we don't know whose wife she is. Is she Reuven's wife or is she Shimon's wife? We're saying now both of them have to give a get because we're not sure whose wife is she. Correct? If it was a retraction, then the second marriage is a marriage. If it was not a retraction, then the second marriage is not a marriage. So we're not sure. Is she the wife of Reuven or is she the wife of Shimon? So if either of them die, whose Yivam is she? Right? Is she Reuven's Yivam or is she Shimon's Yivam? Okay. Rabban Mekudesh and Mekudesh is La'olam. Forever. Even after 30 days, we're not sure who she married to. Shmuel Rabban Mekudesh and Mekudesh is El Ad Lamed Yom. Up to 30 days, it's questionable. Because we know, because what? Because the first one could retract. La'achad Lamed, Paki Kedushi Sheni. But after, when 30 days come, he didn't retract, he didn't die. So who's she married to? She's married to the first person. The Gamri Kedushi Rishon. So now the Gemara, why does Rab's position, it's questionable forever? The Rab Mesavkali to know Havoy, Ichazor Havoy. According to Rav, when he said, Me'achshav v'lach shloshim yom, was it a condition or was it a retraction? If it's a retraction, she's married to number 2. If it's a condition, then she's married to number 1. Right? Yossi, you with us? Our question is, how do you interpret the words Ul'acha Shloshim Yom? If it's Me'achshav, it's not L'Acha Shloshim. So why'd you say L'Acha Shloshim? So we have a question, what did he mean? What was his intent? When a person makes that comment, did he mean 1, A, or did he mean B? Did he mean conditional, or did he mean, I want it to take effect in 30 days? Not retroactive. So you had to change your mind. Right. So now, so that's Besav Itanoi Havoi Chazoravi. Lishmul Pshitole the Tanoi Havoi. According to Shmuel, it's understood the way he understands it's a condition. It's a conditional marriage. So if day 30 comes, it's retroactive. She's married to the first person. Second marriage is nothing. So now the Gemara says, whenever you find an argument of Mogam Aroim, if Tanoim argue the same argument, the Tanoim shouldn't argue it. The Amoraim shouldn't argue it. It's Machlos Tanoim. Or you should at least attribute it to the source of the argument. We should, right? The Amoraim knew, if it's a Mishnah, the Amoraim were fully aware of the Machlos Tanoim in the Mishnah. Every Amoraim knew every Mishnah. They didn't know, they didn't know a Brisa necessarily. They may have not been aware of a Brisa. But Mishnah, every Amoraim knew the Mishnayos. So if it's a Mishnah, we have this argument. Whether it's a retraction or whether it's a Tanai, what are they arguing? As if it's their own argument. This is the previous argument. So that's the first question. Plukta Dani Tanoi. And it seems to be Machlus Rabbi Shmuel is Machlus Tanoim de Tanya. Me'ayom lachem Isa. Let's say a man gives a woman a get, and he says the get should be Me'ayom ulachem Isa. If a person gives a get, that it should take effect after he dies. It's not a get. This is the whole idea, with a will. A person writes a will, and the will takes effect after he dies. It's not a valid will. David's point. Person writes a will that when he dies, he's leaving his inheritance, and he decides who gets what, and he divides up the inheritance. It's not a valid will, according to Allah. Why? Because the moment the person dies, his assets immediately transferred to the heirs. Who are the heirs? Whatever the Torah decides who the heirs are. If the sons are the heirs. Right? But he wrote in the will he wants to bequeath money to something else, or the person's not an heir. So if the will takes effect a moment before he dies, a moment before a person dies, the assets are his assets. Being your asset, you have right to bequeath, to distribute as you choose to distribute. The moment the person dies, then it's no longer his assets. Because the moment at death, everything's transferred out of his estate. The Torah transfers out of the estate. So if it's not yours, how do you dictate who should get, who should not get? Okay? So it's the same as ain't get lachamisa. So the ways to write a will, I mean, Agudas Yisrael has legally drawn up that it takes effect a moment before a person dies. Whatever. They work it out. They worked it out legally. Yeah, you download it from Agudas Yisrael exactly the way it's written up. It's if the will is effective after he dies, could you distribute something that's not yours? So how's the will have any value? Manusha. If the Torah has an order of inheritance, son, daughter, cousin, whatever it may be, okay? So what do you have to write a will? Because the person wants to bequeath it differently. So if he wants to bequeath it after he dies, you can't bequeath something that's not yours any longer. Because the Torah already transferred all the assets to each particular person. So the will has to take effect a moment before you die. Otherwise it's totally ineffective. It means nothing. The Torah already is distributed. It's no longer yours. It's not Torah takes precedence. Right? Once it's it's no longer yours. How could you dictate whose it should be? This would not be Dina Malchus Dina. Yeah, but it's already transferred it. It's the different Dina Malchus Dina.
So that whole thing about putting a condition in so the daughters don't inherit if you want the daughters to get to put something in condition that if they don't follow what you put there, there's like a penalty or something.
Whatever it is.
I'm saying that goes along with this
You download it, we'll talk about it. In court, the Torah law would have no standing. It doesn't have standing. It doesn't. But again, who said you have a right to go to court? If the Torah says, Dina Malchus Dina means anybody can do whatever he wants with his assets as long as he does it correctly. Right? Even the government says, if you do it, you want to give it away, give it away the way you want to give it away. The Torah says it's been given away. It's been given away. So you have no right. You have no right to go to court. I mean, you should do it according to what the Torah says. It's not. It's only if there's a conflict. Here, it's not a conflict over here. No, they said it was insanity. That's what they said. So the will is meaning. Of course, it's meaningless. It's meaningless, the will. Of course, nothing's simple in court today. Nothing's simple. Right? They didn't have to come. Okay. Okay. Let's get back to this. We'll talk about the will after this. But I'm saying that has to do with the ramifications. If a person wants a get to take effect after he dies, right? The get is not a valid get. Right? It has to take effect a moment before he dies. So there's the famous Rashi, which we discussed at one time. Why would you say a person can't divorce a woman after he dies? It's not your wife any longer. You can only divorce a woman that's your wife. The moment the man dies, she's no longer his wife. A get is terminating a marriage. There's nothing to terminate once the man dies. Once his wife's a widow, correct? But Rashi, there's a famous Rashi here and Rashi in Ksubas. Rashi says over here, Rashi says, okay, let's first read inside. A person gives a get to his wife, says, Mi'achsho behayom alachamisa. So what exactly is his intent? Does he mean to say that the get should take effect today if he dies retroactively? Or does he mean, Ma'ayom lachamisa means today, and he says, lachamisa is a retraction. So what happens if it's a retraction? Then the get's not a get. So it's a suffix. We'll see. It's Maktetanya. Me'yom la'chamisa get ve'ino get divrei chachomim. The chachomim say, when you say today and after I die, it's questionable what the man's intent was. Did he mean to say it's a get today, but it should be retroactive from the time I die? Or did he mean, when he said today, he meant today, but then he retracted, he says after la'chamisa. That's the chachomim. So therefore what? If he should die, what's going to be? She has to receive chalitza. According to the chachomim, she needs chalitza. Because she may have been the man's wife. If there were no children, that means she's a yavama. Rebbe Omer kozeh get. Rebbe says the get's definitely a get. When man says miyom lachamisi, meant retroactively. If he should die, then the get is retroactive from the time that he gave the get initially. So now the Gemara asks, so if the machlokas Rav and Shmuel is based upon the machlokas Rebbe and the chachamim, so they should attribute the argument to the source of the argument. Right? Rav should say, I rule like the chachamim, and Shmuel say, I rule like Rebbe. Right? Not say it in their own name. The name of Rav halacha kerabanan. Rav should say, we rule like the chachamim, therefore by kiddushin, as by gittin we say it's a question. It's Sofi get. Here it's all Sofi Kudeshes. The name of Shmuel halacha kerebbe. Okay, let's take a look in Rashi. I just want to show you Rashi over here because same Rashi in Ksubis. Get ve'ino get. See Rashi. Mesafka lehai ulachamiso. Because we have a question when he says, from today and after I die, I havi tenor me'ayom yeget imomus. What did he mean to say? The get should be get from today if I should die. Uchshiyomus nibsa get lemafreya me'osa yom. And when he dies, it's retroactive from the time that he gave her the get when he was alive. Ichazor havi, or it's a retraction. V'chazeh b'me'ayom, and he retracted from saying from today. V'omar zegitech lachamiso, and he says the get should take effect after I die. V'lomar klum, and if that's what he meant, it's meaningless. Why? Then get lachamiso. Okay, a get is not effective after he dies. Now why? The kevon demis heichim megarish. You hear what Rashi says? Same Rashi in Ksubis. If he died, how could a dead man divorce his wife? Kevon demis heichim megarish. I mean, if we would have been saying, we would say differently in Rashi. If you die, there's no need for a get. There's nothing to terminate. Now, firstly, what's the whole discussion over here? In what context are we speaking? What do we say in get lachamisa? What relevance? It only has relevance to being a yavama, correct? Why is he giving this kind of get? Because he has no children. He doesn't want his wife to fall to his brother as a yavama. So now, why can't the get take place after? So, unless the woman, let's say a woman's a yavama, unless she receives the release of chalitza, she's not permitted to remarry. Why is she not permitted to remarry? So the Gemara says because it's called a zika, that there's a remnant of the marriage left from the brother, and therefore there's a bond between the widow and the surviving brother, and that bond is based upon the original marriage. Therefore, there's a connection between the widow and the surviving brother. Now, so there is something left. If the man has children, the moment he dies, she doesn't need a get. It has no relevance anymore. And get lachamisa, you'd say, because there's nothing to terminate. Because the Torah says, if a man dies and he has children, his wife is free to marry. If she's free to marry, what does that mean? That means there's no connection. The moment he dies, the relationship is terminated. There's no residue of that original relationship. What happens if there's a surviving brother and there are no children? So there is a residue, because that's what we call zika. So now the question is a good question now. So if he gave the get to be effective after he dies, there is what to terminate. So why can't the get terminate what's left? And that Rashi says, Kevon demis heichem megarish. To terminate a marriage, the person who's terminated has to be alive. And since the husband's no longer alive, you can't terminate something if you're not there to terminate it. That's the rationale. And Rashi says the same thing in Ksubis. Eina Mesa Megarishim, that's what he says. Over there he says it differently, but it's the same meaning. Cave in the Mis Heichem Megarish. If he died, how do you expect him to divorce? He's not here to divorce. No, of course not. If it goes back to the original date, it's not a problem, because he divorced as a what? As a viable person. But if it takes effect after he dies, although there is a remnant of that original marriage, and that's why she's bound to the surviving brother, but how do you terminate it? There's nobody to terminate, because you're not here to terminate it. That's the story with David HaMelech and Bathsheba. That's exactly what the Gemara says. When David had relations with Bathsheba, Uriah Hittite was alive. But since the people in David's army, before they'd go out to the front, they would give a conditional get, and the get was retroactive from the time they gave the get. If he would have returned, it would have been an act of adultery. But since he never returned from the front, therefore retroactively, from the time he gave her the get, the marriage was terminated. But it was a very precarious situation. I mean, David was playing with fire at that time. At the end of the day, it worked out. But it didn't have to work out the way it worked out. What? Yeah, but he still could have come back. He still could have come back. You never know. Okay? So the Gemara is asking a question. If Rav and Shmuel, their positions are based on Rebbe and the Chachamim, Rav should say halacha kechachamim, that it's questionable whether it's a retraction or it's retroactive, and Shmuel, who says that it's retroactive, should say, we rule like Rebbe. That's why my position is what? That it's retroactive. So now the Gemara answers, Omar Rav, Tzimur says Stricha. Dilo Omar Rav halacha kerabanan. If Rav would say, we rule like the Chachamim, it could be misleading. Why? It's slightly ambiguous. Havamina, Hosav l'Rechoka Kosi. When a man divorces his wife, we rule like the Chachamim. So what a man divorce means, he wants to terminate the relationship. He wants to get it over with. So he wants to distance himself from his original relation with his wife. Right? When you marry a woman, you want to be married to her sooner rather than later. You're marrying her. So I would say, so what did he mean when he said in 30 days? He meant retroactive. It's a condition. When he wants to end the marriage, right? We're not sure what did he mean. Did he mean immediate? Did he mean in 30 days? So I have a question. Is it a retraction or not? But in terms of marriage, I would say he definitely meant retroactively, because he wants to be married to her as soon as possible. If he chooses to. He's leaving that opening to 30 days if he wants to retract. If he wants to retract, that he doesn't want to marry her. But if he wants to marry her, how quickly does he want to be married? How soon? Immediately he wants to be married to her. Right? If Shmuel would say we rule like Rebbe, by get, havamina hosamu, then get lachamiso. The reason why over there it's retroactive, because we say when he said lachamisa, he couldn't have meant lachamisa because it's meaningless. A get cannot take effect after he dies. But over here with the kiddushin could take effect after 30 days. Maybe he would say he concur with Rav, because the marriage could take effect after 30 days. So here it could be. See, we say, the Gemara says very often, a person doesn't waste his time, doesn't waste his words, doesn't waste his money. If factually, I would say it's a retraction. Right? But let's say by get. So what did the man actually say? The man wrote a get, and the get has no value. Because if it's a retraction, and get lachamisa. And the presumption we understand that even though the man may not be an expert in the laws of gittin, but he doesn't want to do something which he's wasting his time and his money. Because if he meant, after I die, so what does that mean after he dies? That means it's not a get. But evidently he wrote a get, and he wanted the get to be effective. So I would say with certainty, what did he mean? He meant retroactive. But by kiddushin, it could take effect after 30 days because they're both alive. So I would say maybe it is a retraction. Over there, I could say with certainty it's not a retraction by get, because a man's not going to waste his time, because the man wants the get to be an effective get. So we say with certainty he didn't mean la chamisa. But by kiddushin, where the marriage could take effect after 30 days, maybe he did mean it. So therefore, each one has to say his position. Yes? No. Again. A person doesn't have to actually be consciously aware of something. If we could say with certainty, if the man would know that he's wasting his time, because it has no validity whatsoever, would he want to do that? He would definitely not want to do it. He had to get written. There was a time investment. There's a financial investment, and at the end of the day, it's all worthless. So we could say with certainty, when he said me'ayom lachamisa, he definitely meant retroactive. He definitely did not mean in a context that it's not going to work. Right? He definitely didn't mean in a context it's not going to work. No, but we're saying that even if he didn't understand the halacha, it's possible to say. See, it makes it more difficult because it's like a yushla midas. We'll say minimally a person doesn't know the halacha, and that's why. So then you have to understand Rav. So what does Rebbe hold? What do the Chachamim say? It's a questionable get. I mean, they're arguing something which is so basic. The Chachamim say it's a question whether it gets a get or not a get. I mean, seemingly Rebbe is right. Why is the man wasting his time? Right? The man is wasting his time. Factually, if the get is lachamisa, that means the get has no value. But he factually wrote a get. So if he wrote a get, evidently he wants the get to have value. It's not going to have value. So evidently, they're not arguing where they're aware of the halacha, and yet the man is doing something which doesn't make any sense. So evidently, we say the person doesn't really know the halacha. But do we say with certainty, knowing that, would he be wanted or not wanted? So now it's a little, it's not as clear. If you know the halacha, it's not even a question. The get is not a get. The get definitely is not lachem misa, because the man's not wasting his time. But if you say the other way, the way I'm saying it, the man doesn't know the halacha. But we say theoretically, if he would have known, would he be wanted, so on and so forth, do we deal with that theoretical level? The Chacham do deal with the theoretical, Shmuel, Rebbe does deal with that theoretical level, the Rabbanan don't. Okay. No, it seems to be, so why is he giving the get if the get's not? He knows that the halach ain't get lachamisa. So when he said hayom lachamisa, could he be meant the get should take effect after he dies? Doesn't make any sense. What's the man wasting his time? Then you would say definitely he meant retroactive. He meant retroactive. Right? No, not that's what he says, because it could be effective in 30 days. He's alive. Right? Also, he wants to retract, whatever it is. Right? Omer Abaye. Now, Abaye says something interesting. It's not that complicated. So, according to Rav, it's a question. Is it retroactive, or is it what? Or is it after 30 days, the marriage? So let's say a third party comes in the interim, and he marries it. You should be married to me in 20 days. So what does Rav say? She needs to get from both. Because if it was a retraction, that means the first marriage is first to take place in 30 days. So if the first man says, I'll marry you in 20 days, so that means the second marriage is going to take effect before the second marriage. So it's a question. Let's say another person comes along and says, I'm going to marry you from today in 10 days. Right? 10 days. So now we have three people married the same woman, and they said, Mi'achshav v'l'achar shloshim, mi'achshav v'l'achar esrim, mi'achshav v'l'achar asar yomin. From who does she need to get? Does she need to get from each one of them, or only from the first and the last? Right? Let's talk. If it's a tanai, if it's condition, she doesn't need to get from the second two people, correct? Because she's married to number one. When he said 30, he meant retroactive. When now somebody comes and says, I want to marry you, me'achshav v'l'achar esrim. If it's a tanai, so then it's meaningless. You don't need to get. But if it's after 20, So that means your marriage is preempting the second marriage. What about the third? It says, from now after 10 days. So 3 is preempting 2 and 3. 2 is out of the picture. 2, she definitely does not need to get from 2. But she'll need to get from 1 and from 3. Right? From 1, because it may be retroactive, and therefore 2 and 3 is nothing. But if it's a retraction, so that means the last one who said after 10, he's preempting 1 and 2. So therefore she's married to number 3. So since it's unresolved, she would need to get from number 1, and she would need to get from number 3. That's what Abaye is saying, according to Rav. You following? Okay, just let's read it inside. Omer Abaye, u'letamid Rav bo echad v'omar harim k'desh li mi'ach shel acha lamid yom. Bo echad v'omar ache v'omar harim k'desh li mi'ach shel lach eshem yom. You're married to me from now after. Bo ache v'omar harim k'desh li mi'ach shel lach asori yomim. Mirishon mi'achron tzricha get. From the first and the last person she needs a get. From the first, if it's a Tanai, if it's retroactive, get. But from the middle person, she doesn't need to get. Why? Mansha. If originally when the person says mi'achshav, it's a Tanai, it's a condition, the kama, the kedushi, the hanachlav kedushi. So the first man's marriage is a marriage, and the other two is not a marriage, because they all married a married woman. If it's a retraction, the basher kedushi, the last one who says after 10 days, danach lav kedushi, because that marriage took effect. She already was a married woman. To be continued.